That's fine. So I also have, I think, a bit of a unique in the um, in the realm of showing new players how to play because as a teacher, I actually ran a D&D club at school with kids. So I was dealing with some really young kids, trying to get them to really get into the game. Um, and it was challenging in a lot of the cases. A lot of the kids just were there because their friends were there, but eventually through like, you know, not pressuring them to play, but encouraging them to do things. And it doesn't have to be something big, just, you know, encourage them to do little things in the game. They really sort of start to gain that confidence and go, well, I can't really mess up anything while I'm playing.
Yeah, that's right.
I may as well have a crack. I mean, who hasn't kicked in a door and afterwards been like, maybe I shouldn't have kicked in that door?
Every week, being able to like bring the spotlight to them and just showing them they can have a little bit of agency, and it's kind of like a feedback mechanism that happens where, you know, like, oh, I can actually interact this way. Oh, what else can I do? And it's this give and take back and forth. That, you know, it's like a new muscle that you never knew you had, right? And you kind of just have to work at it.
Cool. So getting people to gain confidence is nurture them through it. Really, just help them. No one's going to just jump in there.
Positively reinforce them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, like I said before, we had an issue with the audio at the start of the stream, and we lost a lot of that, but that's okay. These things happen.
That's fine.
Can't travel back in time. We're just going to go on to the next question. How do I stop my players from being boring as shit and actually trying different things besides I attack? This is a good question because it's one that I've seen.
It's a great question.
It's one that I've seen Adam and Steven on Being Everything Else talk about is because in D&D specifically, the game's based a lot around attacking things. So there's a problem there. You stab it to death. But I think that this question might be more around, instead of just saying I attack it, roll my dice, what do you do? So what do you do to encourage role playing in general? So instead of just the I attack, it's the, you know, leaping in or looking at things differently. How do we do that?
Yeah. At first, I thought it was that the original question. Like you were just talking about how like was it being framed on how to actually play the game, like saying I attack is wrong.
Well, you know what? We'll look at it. We'll look at it through that too. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I think that other way is actually even more interesting. So to get people to say other things than like simply I attack or like I'm going to make a perception check, you kind of have to encourage it yourself. Explain, like ask, typically through like the Socratic method, right? Like asking the player like, how are you making a perception check? What exactly are you doing? Asking those kind of questions, I think, kind of follow up to make a scene and sort of action seems to help a lot.
Yeah, definitely asking questions. Like instead of they're going, you know, I'm going to make a diplomacy check, you know, to talk to someone. Like, what are you actually saying to them? How is it you're going about that? What do you think?
Exactly.
Famous? What do you think?
Oh, well, I'm probably not the best person to talk about combat role-playing, stuff like that. I'm kind of bad at it myself. I guess for me, like, I try to make the battles more exciting by describing how things are moving around. You know, in a fight, nothing is ever standing still, really. Everything should always be moving around. I don't know. I find the players that want to role-play in combat will, and the ones who don't won't. And I'm kind of okay with that, because I've got more things to do. Like I don't describe a lot of battles very intricately, I guess. That's just my style. But I think trying to get them to be more in touch with what they're talking about and what's around them and stuff, then you just need to give them a lot of detail and a lot of things for them to interact with, I guess. Like the ground shouldn't be bare. You should talk about when they move, they're stumbling over rocks. You know, their line of sight is always being obscured by things moving around, by natural objects.
Yeah.
If you put more things in their way, then they'll probably be more inclined to talk about those things and use those things, I guess.
Oh yeah, like introducing terrain elements and stuff into the game, like even if you're not using a grid, it's great. Like a fight in the rain is always more memorable than a fight not, right?
Absolutely,
just,
yeah. Especially,
right.
yeah,
So,
and at night as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
We've lost
But
Antonio.
uh-oh. Well, while we're getting him back, I just wanted to add, perhaps like depending on the system that you're using to actually like play, depending on what system it is, that also like hamper or augment what you want to do for a character agency. Like for example, D&D, it's like how many more times can you say like, all right, I'm gonna like hack at the guy's thigh or whatever, and you're like, okay, I did 4 damage and he still has 50 HP, right? It's like it's repetitive. But other systems when there's not HP that's quantified or something like that, or if it's like a wound, you can describe the wound in maybe it's easier. And alternatively, maybe there's a system where combat isn't just as espoused as in D&D, right? I think what Famous was saying, there's another type of system out there that maybe isn't so combat related, maybe ask your players to try that. Maybe they'll see they'll see the light, they'll see the other side.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I like about the Apocalypse World hacks is you've got your moves, but the moves are really based on what you're doing. So you only use the moves when it's actually called for. So if you're saying, well, I swing my gun around and shoot at the person, that's when you actually have a move. It's not just like, well, I'm going to attack, I roll to attack. No, the DM throws the moves in when it's required.
I think that's one of the things that's actually really good about new players is like new players will typically describe what they're doing a lot better. Like as like I mean I must admit I'm quite bad at for this. Is as I play a lot, you tend to just I make an attack. I know that's what I say is not going to make any difference. But whereas when you get new people, they kind of quite engaged in it, and they'll actually describe what they're doing, and that's something that's really good. And you kind of want to encourage that.
Yeah,
that's what I found.
Yeah,
I
think it has something to do with. I think it has something to do with the knowledge of mechanics and being a new player and not knowing the mechanics and how the game actually runs. And that's what that dynamic is so exciting and engaging for new players, because maybe they don't know how to express what they want to do, right? Yeah. But like they know they want to like dive and shoot dual pistols out from cover.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to like make that optimized, right?
I had a player, was one of the kids that I was teaching to play, and every time he attacked, it was, this cinematic, I'd swing around 360 degrees, and while it was good, it also got very boring, so I think there's a place for both. There's a place for, I'm going to try and stab at him instead of...
Yeah. As a GM, right? Like it depends on what this combat's supposed to be as well, right? Like if it's just an XP patter, like how cinematic can you make this thing?
Yeah.
Right? Like you're clearly winning. Something that I do personally is have intelligent enemies, like bandits. If you kill like 2 of them or whatever, like they're gone. Like they're like, oh, we're gonna lose. Like why would I risk my life for this? Having enemies that won't stick around to extend combat and fight to the death is also an option. Or perhaps they parlay.
Yeah.
Instead of running away.
Cool. So, just to go back to the question, how do I stop my players from being boring as shit and actually trying different things? I mean, we've talked about the different things you can do, but how do we get them to do that? I think
the way you do it is you yourself cannot be boring as shit.
Yeah.
The more also be another one.
The more engaged you are, and the more passionate you are, the more they will be, I think. And if they're not, then you need to get them off your table and get somebody else in.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Hopefully, they're not the only game in town, right?
Yeah. Actually,
there's never any shortage of players, as I believe the.
Yeah, that's true. But that brings us to our next thing about playing online. Our next question is: we play online, and I'm having trouble getting everyone together. Is there anything I can do about this? I want to talk about this in terms of a couple of things. Like engaging players when you're playing offline is hard. Playing over the internet is harder because we don't have it's a filter. The computer is a filter between what your body language and your tone and all that sort of stuff.
Of course, yeah.
Even if you play with video, it's still.
Wait, did you just say bullshit?
What? No.
Oh, I thought Famous just said bullshit. I'm sorry. It was.
No, I
mumbling
said
on
that's
Skype,
true.
I apologize.
I said that's true.
That makes much more sense. Right.
So really, like,
whoa, hold on.
Do you want to step outside?
This question doesn't preface when they say how they play online.
yeah,
Like, for example, I actually run a 5th edition play-by-post game, and a play-by-post game does not have any of those like engagements of, you know, is somebody distracted? Are they not feeling the game? It is, you know, it's a different,
It's pure
more. I don't know. It's in some ways it's very, very rewarding, but also if you're a new GM or even an experienced GM and haven't done play-by-post games, it's a whole different animal. You're doing a lot more stuff involving, like, you're like basically writing a collaborative novel. Basically. Than actually playing the game.
Fun,
and you can't engage your players in the same way. Like, you cannot read the body language that Famous and Annie just said. It's scary sometimes because things that you think are important and things that you stress in your mind, you have no chance to actually emphasize those in different ways. So
Exactly.
what do you think, Famous? Online playing?
I've never played online, so I can't really speak to that. I don't think I could play online. I need the heat of the table, you know.
They're very different environments. It's very different environments.
It's definitely something I found that, like, it's hard enough sometimes getting people to engage at the table, and you'll get people trying to be on their phones or whatever. But when they're, like, on a computer and they can just alt tab at any point in Wells, Reddit or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, they're just going to do that. I admit, as a player, I've done that occasionally when, like, they're spotlighting someone else, and it's like, well, I know I'm not going to do anything for like the next, I don't know, 10 minutes at least or so.
Yeah.
Sure, but
it's very easy
I find personally. Sorry, it's just that I find personally, I will probably get disengaged at a table at the same time, at the same rate, depending on what's going on, and being like, oh, I have 10 minutes, right? It's just that having the computer staring in front of you, it's much easier to access something than it's.
Definitely.
It's like I don't know how much you guys watch the Roleplay channel, JP's channel, but
more than I care to admit.
Sorry, more than you care to admit.
More than I care to admit.
Yeah. But In Control is constantly, I don't think anyway, he's constantly watching other stuff as he's actually streaming. It's hilarious because sometimes he just has no idea what's happening because he's just been, I don't know, watching other stuff as they've been playing. But it's the same as the table, people having phones and stuff. So as to the question is,
I think it's incredibly rude.
But,
it can be, yeah, absolutely. I used to have a rule where if your phone rang, then trolls appeared out of nowhere.
The most important thing I think you can do is just set a schedule and expectations at the start when you want to play, right? Be like, listen, I'm trying to make a regular game here.
Yeah.
We need to meet regularly. I understand shit comes up, right?
Yeah.
Like, I completely understand. We might have to change the schedule sometime, right?
It's the same with anything. It's a social contract that you're making. Same as with this game here. I've had people not this game, this show, people not actually be able to show up. And it sucks, but, you know, what can you do? But with a game where it's everyone being collaborative, you know, and you're basically building like a group of friends, really, that you're trying to have fun with. Kind of sucks if they don't show up. But so far as what you can do, so far as what you can do to make sure they show up, nothing. It's up to them.
Well, here's the and the other side of that coin is that you have people showing up because, say, this is a game that's been going on for like 6 months, and they actually are not interested anymore in playing this game. But they've already invested 6 months, and they're just seeing this out, and they're afraid of hurting someone's feelings.
That can be very true as well.
Sometimes you just have to have a conversation with your players to be like, why do you not want to play as much as I do? Or be like, you know, is this just something you just see as something that's fun, and it's just a different priority level, right? Some people have different engagement levels.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
you just have an honest talk, basically. Just have an honest talk about but you have to understand what you want out of a game.
Yeah.
Before you have that honest talk.
Eric, was there something that you wanted to talk about with online specifically? What was that you wanted to say about?
Oh yeah. The person who asked this question, they didn't specify whether or not they're streaming the game. And if they're streaming the game and you're having trouble like getting together, yeah, I mean, you definitely have to establish expectations. Like streaming is a completely different thing than a regular game as well, right? Like there's other components going on. Like there's a chat, there's possibly viewers, and you're having people. I don't know, if you're having trouble getting everyone together, it's like this is something that you're investing in a lot more and in a lot different way than a regular game.
Yeah.
And once again, you have to express that in a talk and be like, this is your goal, and you have to have the buy-in. You have to have the buy-in from the players as well.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we did talk about, Eric, was the difficulties of streaming and playing from the side of the DM. What were you saying about that?
Oh yeah. That is a complete. It is a complete mind spin to do it. Mostly, you're trying to engage your players at the same time. The technical difficulties that come into streaming in and of itself, it's too much of a headache, really. I find if you have a player who's willing to actually do this for you, so you can focus on GMing, your life will be much easier.
And I've noticed there's a lot of people streaming their games now with Roll20 and online gaming growing so much. The streams that are being made is going right up as well. Like it's becoming quite a phenomenon.
I mean,
Geek and Sundry have their show.
I've jumped into the bandwagon as well, right? Like, and I know you have too, Andy, with your was it the North game?
Northlands campaign.
Yeah,
poorly
Northlands.
done. Poorly done, but you know.
And even us fledgling guys are jumping in as well and attempting to run our little stuff, which I'm taking over the production for.
It's great.
It's terrifying.
It's a way for everyone to sort of show what they're doing in game. Like the big ones, I would say, are probably It Me JP with roleplay. Geek and Sundry have their new game that they're putting out, and Tabletop. Will Wheaton's show have their RPG that they're bringing in as well. It's
the D&D staff have their own stream as well.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, it's a little different. It's a little weird, but they have their own show as well.
Cool. All right. So we talked a bit about online, getting people together, that sort of stuff. Here's the next question in our topic of getting better participation at the table. How do I get my players to care more about the game? And if there's a subset of my group who are super into D&D, should I just play with them? Cutting losses, I think we're talking about here, guys. When do you cut and run from? When do you just cut people off?
Very much a defeatist attitude we're taking this week.
Sorry?
Very much almost a defeatist attitude we're taking.
It's
cut loss.
Taking control of your destiny as a DM. That's what it is. So I had this same sort of question on the Reddit at one point, where is it okay for a DM to say no to players, to player concepts, that sort of thing? My answer is yes. If someone asks you to play and they're just like they're that guy, you know, say no.
Yeah.
It really depends on like what kind of like the circumstances that we're going into this question, right? Like, what do you mean? Like, how many people are you playing with? Are these your friends? That kind of stuff that comes into this question. Because if it's your friend group and you're like asking to splinter your friend group, that's even more of a raw deal that you're trying to think of, right?
Yeah.
Because
from the wording of the question, it's like there's an established group. Do I just ditch half of them and play with the guys that are serious about playing? I would say no. In that case. Yeah.
But I like to imagine this question was probably about someone who was probably trying West Marches. Like I did that, right? Like I did my own West Marches thing. In fact, I had a multiple GM level like engagement into this, right? Where like the GMs would get together.
I'd be doing so.
Yeah, with a persistent world, and it's such a headache. And what you find is that the actual social parts of the game and getting people to play together is really hard. And then not only do you have player favoritism, which is like what this question is really about, but you have GM favoritism as well.
Yeah.
But when you have a subset of like a West Marches group, when you have like, you know, I don't know, like 10 or more people, and say like 3 people want to go to every single game, right? Yeah. Or like 3 people are the ones who are scheduling it. And it turns out when you're the GM and you're GMing for those 3 people, they crush it. Like they are, you know, if you were a band, you would just have the best jam sound that you ever had, right? And it's like, I kind of just want to play with you guys. And, you know, it might be selfish, but that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, how do you balance that with the other friends? I don't know. That's kind of a hard question. I'm curious. I don't know.
Hippopotamus, what are your thoughts on this? Do we just cut?
I don't have an answer to it. I don't know.
Well, I guess there was really two questions there. It was more you asked about player engagement. Yeah, was that the question this time?
How to get my players to care more about the game, and if there's a subset of my group
care more about the game
who are super into D&D, should I just play with them?
Right. All right. Well, getting your players involved in your world is you need to put a lot of work into your world. I mean, if you give a shit about where you're playing, then they're going to care about where they're playing. If every time they ask you what's over there and you go, I don't know, like maybe a tower or something, then they're not going to care either. You know, I really think that you need to give them a rich and deep experience, and if they're not interested, then get people who are. I mean, if you have a group of your friends and only 3 of them really want to play every week, and like you were saying, you know, if you know when you play with them, the game's really there's all that synergy, there's all that energy, and you're just doing something awesome. You're not even really telling the story anymore. You're just kind of hanging on for the ride while it tells itself. Is that selfish? Yeah, but you know what? Those moments in your life when you can get that, I think you should be selfish, man. Grab onto it and tell your other friends, look, we'll play something else some other time casually, but I got this weekly thing going on, and you know, I really want to focus on that.
Yeah, just to be like, this is my serious game. This is the really fun one where everyone just gets to do whatever they want. Sure, you can play a drunk bear.
Yeah.
Go for it, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Canonia, what do you reckon?
Yeah. I would say, especially if you're running like a West March to Star campaign or anything like that, then if you've got a group that wants to go all the time, then take that, and if that works really well, then give them as much as possible, and like run kind of simple, kind of more one-shot stuff, or even try some different systems without the other groups or whatever. Like give them something fun to do. If they're still happy to do stuff normally, but if you have a group that's super engaged, then definitely take that by the horns.
Feed it.
Definitely. Okay.
All right. We might take a quick break. Alessandro, you got anything else for that, Eric? Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on something that Famous said, though, because this is something that happens to me when you're playing with new players a lot. You will invest a lot of time into the world. You will invest a lot of time in like character details and stuff, and know what you get when you start in like the next episode or like the next time you guys get together. You're like, oh, let's go to such and such face, or they make up like a terrible nickname for a guy. And you're like, yeah, let's go to the rat dude guy, right? And you're just like, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know that's not necessarily bad. It just, you know, as a GM, you put so much work into the world, but you know, at least your players are happy, and maybe it's not wrong that that's just the level of what they want out of this game. But you know, if you want something more serious, my experience once again is that maybe you just have to find new players and like more experienced players. But you know, if you just have new players, just roll with it. And if you don't have, so if you can't find experienced players, make them.
You know what?
Make them from new players.
That's what Dungeon World is for those new players who are just trying to throw whatever they want into the game. Dungeon World, they can make up a bunch of stuff and just chuck it in, and then roll it over. Set the tone as being more serious for later games. But
yeah.
Okay. I just want to pick up on the point. Oh, sorry. I just want to pick up the point if they're making nicknames for stuff, then like that's good. That's engagement. Like, who cares if your super villainous bad guy now has is called Mr. Poopy Face? At least they now care about Mr. Poopy Face.
Yeah, that's true.
He has a name. It's something. He means something to them. Then.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break.
That's kind of really important.
We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back in about 2 minutes or so. Stay tuned.